Hey, everybody, quick content warning for this episode. We're going to talk about a film that contains subject matter related to mental health and suicide. If you or a loved one is in crisis, please reach out to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, T-A-L-K, or the crisis text line. That's right, you can text. Just text the word TALK to 741-741 to talk to someone who can help. We're excited to talk about this movie, but of course, keep that in mind. If this is something that you are a little bit concerned about, we are going to be talking about that for this film review. Okay, well, Will Ashton, we're going to start this episode of Cinemaholics on the count of three.
Okay.
1, 2. Will, why are you pointing a gun at me?
Oh God.
We're just starting. We're just talking about Cinemaholics. Is that a fake gun?
Put
From
him up.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He is Will Ashton, writer and editor at Collider. Hey, Will.
Hey,
How's it going?
I'm all right. Not the. I guess it's the curveball you were telling me about. That.
You still have the gun pointed at me.
Oh, okay.
I'm a little concerned.
Yeah. Well.
Speaking of threes, we also have Corey Woodruff. Corey Woodruff from Nashville, Tennessee. The best sports writer, the best person I think I've ever not met. It's Corey Woodruff.
Thank you.
Corey, what's going on, man?
I'm good. I have COVID, so that's fun.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Hashtag COVID Corey, if you guys want to use that on your Twitter
COVID
account.
Corey is a whole hashtag?
COVID Corey, yeah. You can go ahead and get out.
The new craze, the COVID Corey.
It's a dance move.
If this kills me, you guys can have like a Corey remembrance episode.
You just sit in a chair, lean back. That's a new COVID Corey.
It's a new TikTok craze where you just what do you do?
Hashtag. Well, that's the thing. If I die of this, what you guys can do is like a Cinemaholics Corey remembrance episode where it's just like it's like 10 hours of all the times me and Will did this show.
We'll play Papa Roach. Just
that would be nice.
That's how we'll open the show. Corey, I think this is the first time we've ever done an episode of the show with somebody while they've had COVID. I think
that is not true.
Wait, who had it?
I had COVID for the extra milestone where we discussed Edward Scissorhands.
That was an extra milestone, Will.
Okay, but it was under the umbrella of Cinemaholics. So
okay, that's a big umbrella.
Well, if I reach my extra milestone
everywhere
and survive this, then I'll be honored to be your very first living COVID guest.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, first COVID guest, Will. You're not a guest. You're the main event.
He's
you're
always
one that people
a
come to
guest
see.
in his own home. He's always a guest here.
You're always welcome. You're here, your family.
Yeah.
Cinemaholics. I'm John Negroni, of course, from San Francisco, film editor for theyoungfolks.com. We got a great show for you all. We're talking about On the Count of Three, a movie that is, I think, hitting... is it just in limited release right now through United Artists and Annapurna, or is it like a wide release it's getting right now?
I know it's on VOD. I tried to find where it's playing in theaters, and I could not even locally, just anywhere I could not figure out.
I think it's just limited. Yeah.
I
mean, there's a lot
like
of stuff happening right now.
12, 15 theaters. I don't want to say they're trying to bury it, but it doesn't seem like they were very eager to get this out.
I mean, if I could have seen it in theaters, I would have. But every time I go to the site where it says like find theaters, it's just like what theaters? I'm like, just any theaters at all. Who's playing it? And they're like,
we don't know what you're talking about.
Right. It's like, what movie are you looking for?
Right.
Downton Abbey? Like, no.
Now, we should get some housekeeping out of the way because this place is filthy. And so, Will, we have a pretty epic week coming up for the boys to trademark. We're going to be both in San Francisco for my wedding, and I actually don't know what the plan is. Are we doing an episode of Cinemaholics?
I was going to ask you after we finish this recording or at the end of the show. I generally don't know what you have planned.
Well, I guess we should put it out to listeners. We don't know yet. Because I guess the movie to talk about would be Men, because that's when, but I don't know when you're going to be able to see it. I saw it last week. That's the latest Alex Garland movie. I have a screening for Bob's Burgers movie, but I'm not going to go.
I mean,
because I'm too busy. I'm going to get married. Let's go.
I've seen the new Downton Abbey. If you can see that, I can discuss that with you, I guess.
Corey, this is making it sound like you're going to be hosting Cinemaholics with Charlie Ridgely, just doing like a Cinemaholic swap. I guess that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Can I make a joke that you edit out of the show?
Yeah, I'll bleep it out.
Okay. Well, things that would make me want to. That would be a very.
The thing that impresses me about that is that you wanted to say it so badly. You were like, I don't even care if it adds a chore to John's. worth it, I guess.
It needs to be said.
Yeah, you couldn't. My thing is, I thought you and Charlie were friends, but okay.
Oh no, we are. That's what makes it even better.
Right.
Well, it would be fitting then, because this movie's about two friends who both try to
There you go.
each other. Yeah.
No, it would be completely one-sided. That would just be.
Oh, you're just gonna
Mumbling
commit
that.
murder.
No, it would be a suicide with another person involved. That would be the. That's terrible.
I think that's assisted suicide is what that's called.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So I think that's enough for us to go off of. I am going to say, by the way, I did see Top Gun Maverick last week. Haven't had a chance to convene. Oh, it's incredibly good. I cannot wait to talk about it on this show. That's going to be such a good conversation.
I'm going to go
so
see
up all our
that
alleys.
on the world's or biggest IMAX screen.
You're going to see it on the world's biggest? It's in Nashville?
No, so this is completely random. My wife wanted to go to Savannah, Georgia to celebrate her birthday and finishing grad school. So I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great.
I thought you were going to say you were going to be in like Dubai or something.
Yeah.
Like, this is pretty random, but...
but so Pooler, Georgia, which is right outside of Savannah, has just, as of today, opened the world's biggest IMAX screen.
Shout out to our listeners there. I didn't know about this. The biggest in the world or the biggest in the country?
Biggest in the world. Not the biggest like movie screen, but IMAX screen.
You're going to have to check in with it. I want to know how big that is. Like,
yeah,
I'm excited.
I can probably pull the dimensions up, but it's like Top Gun's going to be playing while I'm there. So I'm going to go do Top Gun. I'm going to wait to see it until I do that.
Yeah, and the movie comes out May 27th. Will, are you going to be watching it also on IMAX or anything like that? Are you going to be seeing it with the family or anything?
Top Gun?
Yeah, Top Gun
I'm
Maverick.
going to try to see it in IMAX, when I get back from the trip. My screening, I believe, is the day I'm flying home, so I won't be able to catch it. But
you'll be in the mood, though. You'll be in the air.
I'll feel the need. Yeah, I will be fitting. Yeah, because I'll be in the air while the screening's happening. So I'll be getting the 4D experience, I guess, of the film.
I do have to put you on the spot, Will, because you got to do something pretty amazing very recently. We haven't talked about. You got to meet Joe Pera.
That's true. Which Corey he's also met Joe at one point.
I have 4 years ago.
So I'm the only one that Joe isn't aware of, huh? Okay, that's how it works out.
Well, I mean, I told Joe, like, if you ever meet a man named John Negroni, stay away. Don't. Yeah, he's bad
the hell
news.
Out of there.
Yeah. Heed my warning, sir.
How was that? How was that show?
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say there's an entire corner of the internet that wants to beat the guy up that did the Pixar theory. It's a bunch of DreamWorks stands. They're just,
oh, wow.
It's a pretty big group, yeah. There's a whole subreddit.
Yeah, they get in like Shrek costumes.
It's r/violence against John is okay.
Are they firmly in the Pixar movies are not connected together? They are separate entities and need to stay separate.
You know what? No, they're just like, hey, it might be true, but we just want to humble John. That's
okay.
It's actually kind of constructive in a way. Yeah. Will, how was the show though? How was our guy?
Oh, it was a lot of fun, man. It was what you expect, and in some ways, not at all what you expect.
Because it wasn't stand up, right? It was like
it was stand up.
It was. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if it was like some kind of special sort of him doing a version of the show or something.
No, I mean his stand up is not dissimilar to what he does in the show. I mean, it's a lot of like interacting with the audience.
Was it all new material?
So far as I can tell, I mean, what he's done new for the tour, at least. I mean, none of the jokes I'd heard prior to it.
If people are a little bit like, you know what, maybe they've watched the show, but if they've never checked out Joe Pera's stand-up, his best stand-up I think I've ever seen from the guy was his Buffalo Bills bit.
Yeah,
it is
fantastic.
It's so good. It's on YouTube. You can find it. Okay. Well, I guess that's everything that we've been up to, except I know, Will, you saw Downton Abbey, A New Era.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess I could talk about. I made my debut at Inverse.
That's right.
This past
oh
week.
yeah, plug that.
So if you guys want to read what I have to say about Happy Death Day, it's a fairly
time travel
personal
issue.
piece. Yeah, so I got a lot of people saying nice things about that. So if you want to check that out,
Quite good.
go see that at Inverse.
And Core, did you have anything to plug? I don't know what you've been up to super recently.
Oh gosh, what have I done recently? I've done this show since I got approved for Rotten Tomatoes, so that's nothing. It's not.
Yeah, we did. Remember, we had some cake, and we did the whole ceremony.
That was nice.
Yeah, we put you in the coffin for a few minutes, and then typical stuff.
Bang, yeah. Gosh, I haven't written anything in a minute. Just been so busy. John, I am going to pitch something to you that as a piece I've been wanting to. Actually, this is the perfect time for me to write it.
You should pitch it while I'm still out because the editor in chief is covering for me at the Young Folks right now, so you should try to sneak it in before I can reject it.
Yes, it would be called The Summer of Spiders, and it would be.
It's the Summer of Morbius, Corey.
No, it's not the Summer of Morbius. This is.
Have you seen the box office receipts?
Yes, they suck. But sorry. Basically, what I want to write is a first-person reflection of what it was like to grow up in the summer of 2002 while Eight-Legged Freaks was making the runs and the Harry Potter stuff was. It was the year of the giant spider, and as someone who had an irrational fear of giant spiders, it's a piece I've been wanting to write for a long time. And I can't think of a better place for it.
It sounds like you're trying to tackle your fears in this way. Like this is a big moment.
I'm going to watch the movie when I write it, and I have been avoiding that movie for 20 years.
I mean, I'm sure you have. I remember seeing it when I was a kid, and it freaked me out.
I couldn't. It just they would show the trailer on Cartoon Network and stuff, and I could not escape that movie. It traumatized me. I didn't even see it, but I'm going to watch it before I write it.
I imagine though, Kid Will Ashton was just so desensitized to all. He was just like, this could be edgier. This could be.
To Eight-Legged Freaks?
Will. We were just talking about. Oh, don't even.
I've never seen it because the box cover freaked me out as a kid, so I never watched it.
That poster is traumatizing. It is literally generational trauma that I am not going to pass on to my children. But that's the stuff I'm not going to pass on. The box cover to Eight-Legged Freaks. But I'm just going to write it, and it's just going to show up on your dashboard, and you're just going to be like, "Why did that come here?" And then it's going to be like, "Well, just live with it."
One last thing before we kick things off here. I was going to mention too, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We talked about it on the show last week. We were pretty mixed on it. We weren't haters, but we certainly, it wasn't our favorite Marvel. But I was checking out the box office, and I'm feeling a little bit better about my box office predictions because I'm still thinking that Jurassic World Dominion is going to be the biggest of the summer, and I had a feeling Doctor Strange is going to be pretty front loaded because it had a huge opening weekend, 11th biggest opening weekend of all time. But this weekend, it kind of it dropped a lot. I think it was one of the big sharpest drops for any Marvel movie ever. And so it's not looking amazing for people who are like, oh yeah, this is going to be the biggest movie of the summer. I think we kind of talked about it, Will, where we were like, are people going to see this more than once? Is this really going to have a lot of legs, right? 8 legs,
Sure.
It's looking like it might not. What do you think?
I mean, with these things, it's kind of hard to know going into the summer, how they're going to be received. So therefore, how are they going to do? Because, ultimately, I guess certainly so with Marvel, there is getting to this point now where it feels like we're kind of getting to the breaking point where it's they are, if you haven't watched 3 movies and a TV show, they're basically becoming inaccessible. And sure, a lot of people are watching them, but it's not like you can just kind of gradually go into this thing being okay, if I don't know this, am I going to be able to follow it? Certainly, I think something like Endgame is meant to be the pinnacle of the thing in terms of reaching as broad an audience as possible, kind of feeling like a crescendo to this whole thing. And now they're just kind of going out and doing a lot of smaller but also more intricate things in terms of plotting and story and character. So yeah, it would make sense that if Doctor Strange is being more divisive, certainly it seems like the Raimi stuff that was more appealing to me is turning some people off,
right?
Because it is, I guess, seen as less commercially interesting. There's a set style for Marvel movies, and I guess people are getting accustomed to being put off when that's thrown away or pushed away for something that's more filmmaker driven, which is I think more alarming than anything else for me as far as Marvel movies are concerned. But as far as this one is concerned, yeah, I mean, it would make sense that Jurassic World does end up taking the #1 spot. It would also make sense if Lightyear does, if Jurassic World is also considered a critical disappointment and audience are just like, I don't know, not feeling it. Or even
This could be the summer of Minions.
Could be a summer of Minions, could be the summer of Thor. I don't know.
Yeah, there are some people who are like, maybe Thor is going to be the Marvel movie that gets amazing reviews, and Thor Ragnarok built up so much goodwill that this could be one that like super outperforms Thor Ragnarok. Who knows?
Well, I mean, I think I've said this already, but I think typically the #1 film is not only like a big, much anticipated movie, but it has something that audiences haven't seen before. They feel inclined to go to theaters because it's like, oh, okay, this is like something I've seen before, but it's also a little bit different. And I guess Jurassic World would have that with like, okay, here's the old cast and here's the new cast, and now they're interacting together, and it's the final big like epic ending to the Jurassic
World
Park
Endgame
franchise. Yeah,
let's do it.
So it would make sense ultimately if that becomes the highest grossing film, but it also really depends on if that movie is actually good, which we don't know yet.
I think Corey was about to say that he thinks Men, but the Alex Garland film is probably going to be the #1 domestic. So I beat you to it.
Either that or the
Firestarter, which cratered this past weekend, made $3.8 million compared to Doctor Strange, which made like $61 million. Which Doctor Strange, to be clear, I think Doctor Strange made $30 million less the whole weekend than it did one day last weekend. Like that's how big the drop was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Firestarter, not necessarily a conversation starter. Am I right?
He's got jokes.
That's why you have me on this thing, even when I'm sick.
Toy Corey. So Corey, yeah. I don't actually know. I don't even know if you like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse Madness. Did you see this coming?
Oh yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, I think all Marvel movies are built to have drop-offs like this. Like, Marvel movies are not word-of-mouth movies. They are like big, huge openings because everybody goes to see it, and then like it's like watching a TV show. You don't do it again necessarily. You just wait for the new episode to come out. So, once their kind of big audience goes and everyone who's been following the story goes, it's like people will still go, to see it. It'll still make money, but it's just like it's not gonna have that organic growth that it needs. Because again, the Spider-Man drop, I think, for No Way Home was roughly about this. So it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I love the Multiverse of Madness. Like, I love making fun of Marvel because it's like the biggest thing going, and it's like, it's annoying in its own ways, but like, for how many movies they make of this. And I haven't been a huge fan of the Phase 4 stuff quite as much. Like, I enjoyed Spider-Man and I really liked Loki, but everything else, I haven't even watched some of the TV shows and just kind of burn out a little bit on the continuance of everything, but I quite enjoyed it. But I got COVID from it as well.
Now you have time to catch up on all the stuff you missed, huh?
Yeah, I guess. But I'm pretty sure I got COVID from my Doctor Strange screening. So I have conflicted views on the experience. But
Doctor Strange, despite his name,
yes,
got you sick. That's pretty.
He did, and it's like
ironic.
Finally, we get a Marvel movie that actually has like a personality and an identity, and it's the one that makes me sick. So, yeah.
Well, if you are curious what Will and I thought of the movie and you haven't checked it out yet, we did our Doctor Strange episode last week. We talked about where we're at with Marvel at the moment, and yeah, you can check that out. I think I stand by it. But okay, let's get into the main movie we wanted to talk about this week. As we sort of already talked about at the top, it is an indie film. It's being released through Annapurna Pictures. It's called On the Count of Three. It is a dark comedy that was directed by Gerard Carmichael, his first film. He also stars in it alongside Christopher Abbott. And for those of you who are go, oh, that name sounds kind of familiar, Gerard Carmichael just recently did a special on HBO Max called Nathaniel, which Will might talk about here in a minute because he checked it out. He also hosted SNL a few weeks ago. Good episode of SNL, I thought. And he's kind of breaking out a little bit. I think this is like this is the summer of Gerard. And he in this movie, which is the tagline is "It's a great day to be alive." It is extremely indie. It's extremely like dark, but it's also like kind of a funny and sweet, heartwarming movie about two friends. The movie kind of kicks off with you don't know why, but they have like guns pointed to each other. It's actually kind of similar to how this episode of Cinemaholic started off between me and Will, except both of them have guns. Will just had the gun, and that was kind of scary. But anyway, so the movie is sort of about how these two guys decide to do a suicide pact. And, I'll repeat, like this bit of a content warning here. If that's not something you want to dig with, you want to get grooving with, we are going to be talking about that kind of subject matter right now. But the idea is that they are going to spend like one last day together, kind of doing a few last things before they end their lives, and they help each other do it. They live very, very depressing lives. They live lives where, dead end jobs. The Christopher Abbott character, he's been committed, and because he's tried to end his life previously, just a few days before this. But the whole idea is that like they have unfinished business. They have some traumas that they want to address, some old love interests. One played by Tiffany Haddish, in fact. We also have Henry Winkler in here as like an old figure related to Christopher Abbott who sort of has him on the ropes. And it's sort of about how these two guys are sort of just spending this. I think it's like basically a Tuesday, it's just like any other normal day, just kind of gliding along, trying to like bring themselves to this point where they end it all. I think it's a wonderful, sweet, and disarming movie, ironically enough. It doesn't go the way you expect, but it also kind of does. It's very interesting in that way. And we saw it last January 2021, when it premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. It was definitely one of the best of the fest. I was very, very enamored by just the entire presentation of it. I actually just watched the trailer for the first time. The trailer really nails the tone of it really well, and it just kind of like brought me back to the movie and like that sweet nature it has, the music of the whole thing, which is so like intricate to like why how the movie kind of like sweeps you in. Very, very good movie. But Will Ashton, we'll start with you. What did you think of On the Count of Three? Did you hope that it would go longer, more count?
Yeah. So, I mean, as you mentioned, I first saw it at Sundance last year, my first Sundance ever. And I remember it was one of my most anticipated because I find Gerard Carmichael to be a really exciting new comedic talent. I think certainly with his stand-up and his own show, the Carmichael Show, he's been really good at balancing tricky and complicated subject matter in a way that respects the gravity of them, but also finds the humor and humanity in them at the same time. I think it's a really interesting balance with his humor that I find really exceptional, and something that I think is only continuing with this work, not only here, but moving forward. As you mentioned, Rothaniel, his most recent special for HBO that Bo Burnham directed, I think is really outstanding. And I think it's a great evolution for him in some ways I'll discuss in a little bit. But as far as this movie is concerned, I remember being just really impressed because dark comedy is just inherently really, really hard to pull off. I think it's easy to fall into the temptation of dark comedy. It's just like you want to get like nasty and get really just like shocking and provocative, and oftentimes I find that the dark comedies that don't work don't really respect the stakes or gravity of it. They're just kind of more inherently trying to be about shock factor, and you can do shock factor well. Certainly someone like John Waters, for instance, can really use shock factor in interesting, intricate ways. But in terms of modern filmmakers, I think you have to really kind of find the balance of humanity, but also find these kind of shocking and provoking moments. And I think that's something that really comes out here in this film, because what we've seen from Gerard Carmichael's comedy is true here, and that like he does find that balancing act of exploring men's vulnerability, their insecurities, and their inability to really kind of make peace with themselves or where they want to be in life, and exploring also their trauma and grief and how they are stuck in this place where they can't really be content with themselves, but they also don't really know how they can move forward. And it's like this very interesting and, like you said, sweet balance that really comes out through the inherent chemistry found between Gerard Carmichael and Christopher Abbott. And I think as much as Gerard Carmichael is really, the shepherd of the ship here, and I think is a good straight man, I think the heart of the film comes down to Christopher Abbott, who has been, I think, one of our finest young working actors since he came on a scene with Girls on HBO about a decade ago. As much as I do really like some of the talent that's come from that show, certainly Lena Dunham and Allison Williams, and I think most prominently Adam Driver, I think Christopher Abbott's always been the actor from that show that's really impressed me, especially with some of the stuff moving forward. Certainly James White is a film that I think is pretty heavily underrated, and I think his performance in that is outstanding. And I think this is also one of his best performances. I think the movie doesn't really work if you don't have that balance that he brings. It's like a nervy, live wire performance that is very in tune to the emotion of the character. It can be very broad and kind of wacky, but there is something that's very grounded in reality here. And I think that's something that Carmichael as a director is really good at doing, is that it is always kind of heightened and extreme, but there is still something that's gravitating it and bringing it down. There is that gravity that does make it real and feels like it is true to life, and that there is something that, can feel very honest and profound from it. And so I think that's a balancing act that is really impressive for a filmmaker in his first film, and it makes me really excited to see where Carmichael goes next, certainly as a comedian, but also as a filmmaker.
Yeah, the character you're talking about is named Kevin, played by Christopher Abbott, and we all knew this guy in high school. I knew that as soon as he came onto this movie and we saw him kind of in his own sort of world or whatever, or they're in the car or something, I was like, I know this guy. I have this guy dead to rights, no pun intended. And
yeah, he's almost locked in place in 2005.
Yes.
He has the blonde highlights. He has the outdated music sensibilities. Even his fashion's kind of out of sync.
He's
he has
this great.
He has that great multicolored vest that always stands out wherever he's wearing. It's just great character work there.
He's the Kyle Mooney guy who is running for school president in that one skit, right? In
a way, yeah. Maybe a little bit more nervy, like I said, but yeah, certainly has that energy to him.
All right, Corey Woodruff, I know you're somebody you. I know you're a man of the people. I think Corey Woodruff, I think this is a guy who knows the blue collar sort of sensibility. He sticks up for the working class. So what did you think of On the Count of Three, a movie that is very much about that sort of thing?
Well, I am a man of the plane, so that's the thing. It's not Jimmy Carter, it's me. That was the whole thing. That was the thing. No, it's my favorite movie of the year, which is a weird thing to say since I saw it for the first time in January of 21, but that's COVID times. It's brilliant. I mean, I really feel like it's just this jolt of, really just, I don't know. It's one of those movies where you want to resist hyperbole because you don't want to, paint too vividly of a picture for a film that I really feel like you just kind of have to dive into and experience. Because it's kind of like you guys have said, the tone that it pulls off and what it's able to do with just pitch black subject matter is really beautiful and it's really impressive. And the fact that, Carmichael was able to do this at his first at bat in making the movie is just, incredibly impressive. But I just, it's one of those movies where, I watched it again last week, and while I don't think you can ever recapture the shock of the first viewing, because it really is just some of those scenes in the first, when you watch it for the first time, it's just holy cow, did he really just do that? But I mean, I don't know, it's just, and I think it's one of my new favorite buddy movies, just for what it's able to do with the dynamic of friendship and of kind of male relationship that, I think at times kind of can get overlooked in terms of really diving into the specifics of, how friendships can function and how, when you really become close with somebody, what does that dynamic look like, even at your worst possible time for both of you. It's an incredible movie. It's really there's been nothing I've seen in 2022 that has really captured that just kind of lightning in a bottle. I think that accomplishes, and it's got two of my favorite performances of the year from Abbott and Carmichael. What they do with Henry Winkler is just shocking. I'm just applaud Henry Winkler for even being willing to take on a role like that. Just bizarre, but there's so many little things I could talk about that I just love about the movie. But I think on a cumulative sense, it's my favorite of the year. Wouldn't surprise me if it's like my favorite of the year by the end. We'll see what happens, but it's a very special movie, and it's just I wish that it was getting a bigger moment in the sun, I guess. But I'm glad to be able to do some evangelizing for it because I have very strong feelings about it.
Yeah, it's such an interesting movie in the way that I think my favorite things about it, because you have like the little misadventures, right? They're going from place to place. There's hijinks. It's very much like a situational comedy. It's not like they're cracking jokes all the time. It's not a buddy comedy like that. My favorite parts are the trips in the car, where they're having these conversations, these very like nihilistic sort of like, this venting of grievances. That's where we start to understand a little bit more of like what's really going through their head when they're a little bit more like off their guard. And these are my favorite parts of the movie because I think, Corey, you kind of nailed it, and this is a movie that like kind of tackles these sort of like unexplored, anxieties and, mental health pitfalls of being a guy, in 2022. There are a lot of things that guys struggle with. And I know we've talked about this on the show many times that, there's a real serious problem with, just male violence, a lot of people in this country just kind of like taking out a lot of their mental health issues on other people. And this is a movie that's not about that. And I guess not super directly, although it is actually in some respects, because these are guys who are kind of like revisiting places where some of the men in their lives have inflicted real pain and abuse on them, right? So I guess it is like that in a sense. And I love this movie for how it tackles such a hard topic, something that can obviously be misconstrued, or it can be sort of like read as like men whining or whatever. But it does it in like a wholesome way, and I think that like juggling of tone is so like, for a first time filmmaker, I think that's what probably impresses me the most about it. There were very few times when I was feeling a little bit like, what are we really doing here? And usually when we did, I was like, I kind of liked that because I liked being led along this and being like, well, what is going to happen? Like, what are they really going to go through with this? That's kind of the intrigue of the movie. I'd love to revisit it for that reason and kind of see like, okay, now that I know, the destination, were there things about the journey that maybe I missed on the first viewing? And I'd love to revisit it for that reason. But what do you think, Will? I mean, it's a movie we saw a while ago. Is it definitely
Right.
something that like has really stuck with you?
It has, yeah. I mean, similar to Corey, I also opted to rewatch the film yesterday. Now it's available on VOD. Like we were saying earlier in the episode, unfortunately, while it is playing in theaters, no theater locally, I guess, is playing it. So far as I can tell, at least. I mean, it seems unfortunate that Annapurna is burying this movie as much as it is. I don't know if it's more out of fear or if they're just not really sure how to promote it. Like we said, like I think the trailer is pretty. Yeah.
Sorry, can I say real quick then, since you brought it up, if you are a Bay Area listener, we are playing it in the Bay Area in a few theaters around here. Not a lot.
Oh, yeah?
I think only like 2. Yeah, one theater in San Francisco is playing it, and I know one theater in Berkeley is playing it right now. That's it.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I know. It's like when I looked it up, it was like one theater in Portland, Oregon. I saw was playing it, but yeah, I wasn't able to find any other theaters. Certainly none near me. But yeah, I mean, it was always kind of destined to be, I guess, sort of an underground thing. I think it is a film that I think once you sit with it, it can be easy to understand its intent and what it's trying to do and how it accomplishes that. But it is, when you hear the premise, it can be one that maybe is hard to sell, at least to a wide audience. But like we said, I mean, I think that's just kind of the beauty of Carmichael's style. I think he can tackle things that are very messy and complex with a disarming sort of simplicity and vulnerability that I find to be really impressive and really accomplished for a young comedian like him. And certainly I think that tradition continues with Rothaniel, which does tackle his own sort of conflicted feelings with his sexuality, coming out as a gay man, and how that he still has a lot of like unsettled feelings about his family not really accepting him yet. And, even his friends are sort of like not really sure what to make of it. And it's a fascinating special. It sees him like interacting with the audience. There's a therapeutic quality to it that I find really, really fascinating, and something that I think it's probably the best thing that Bo Burnham has directed, either this or Eighth Grade. But yeah, I mean, I think it is fascinating.
Bo Burnham Inside Erasure. I'm not letting that just slide by. Right?
I'm of the opinion that Bo Burnham is a better director when he's not on screen. You guys can disagree with that, but
we sure can.
Sure. But in any case, as far as Carmichael's timeline goes, it is fascinating that this is coming out a year and a half after his debut. As far as Carmichael seems to be in a more comfortable place emotionally. I think he's freer, certainly, from coming out. Like the joke I was kind of saying to you at one point was that this movie's taken so long to come out that even Carmichael has come out before the movie has. But in a way, I feel like it is kind of fascinating in that, like, it is for Carmichael. I mean, certainly it does, I think, explore that sort of uncomfortable masculinity, that sense of his character in this film isn't really comfortable with himself, where he's supposed to be as like a boyfriend and potentially as a father. Like it's really, I mean, I think he brings that sort of unsettled masculinity to really good use here, and I think that's why his performance really works. But it is also fascinating for him as a performer, kind of going from a rewatch of On the Count of Three to watching Rothaniel, where he is continuing to evolve as a comedian and as a performer. And, it's not to say it's regressive, it just feels like he's kind of at a point now where it feels like he's kind of evolving into something new and different. It makes me really fascinated to see where he's going to go next if he makes another film. But it also makes me mad that it's taken this long for this film to come out, because I feel like it would have been more effective if this came out last year while he was in a different place.
Yeah, I totally get that, because I certainly, I didn't even know too that he had come out until Rothaniel was on the wings, and then SNL, of course, he talked about it in his monologue. And I am kind of curious, like, okay, well, how does this movie then sort of read, knowing that about the director and the star, that this was like an underpinning perhaps of what he wanted to say with this movie, not necessarily that he's a gay man, but just like you said, like the conflict he has with being perceived as who he is, in a society that, where he just feels perpetually out of place. He's clearly, like in the movie, he's very depressed, and he just doesn't want to go along with the motions of like what people expect of him. And I think that there probably is like a really, really deep, like, insecurity or anxiety that he was exploring here that, obviously we didn't have that context at the time, right? So, it was something that was like there, but certainly didn't pick up on it with that much specificity. But, that is the beauty of revisiting films, by filmmakers as they continue to evolve and we start to kind of see them develop over time. I mean, imagine what a Johnny Depp movie probably reads as. I'm sorry, no, I should have mentioned that. Okay, Corey Woodruff. I think we've said quite a bit at this point. Let's wind it down, though. Are there any last minute takeaways you want to add to this movie? Because obviously, we have to imagine most of the people listening to this, the vast majority, probably haven't seen the movie yet, or they're listening to us after they have seen the movie and they're just kind of curious what the scuttlebutt is. But is there anything that you want to do? You feel like you got to get out there before we end the show?
Yeah, I think there's two things. One, going as fresh as you can, because there's some scenes that are, they could be, again, like you kind of talked about, they could be triggering, but they're also just kind of stunning in the way that he's able to kind of mount a moment that you just can't see coming. So I'll just say, try to go in as fresh as you can. This podcast, I think it's been good to not talk about some of the more specific scenes that are, kind of fun to enjoy, is a kind of a shock value. But I guess the biggest thing that I take away from this movie, just with the way it's been released and the lack of, buzz around it. Now, I get that it doesn't have a lot of starry celebrities in it, so it's not going to be a huge event type thing, obviously. But I don't know, and maybe this is more of a provocative conversation for later, but I do kind of mourn that, while this is a very challenging movie on the surface and depth, I don't know, are we in an environment right now where it's harder to engage with a film that has this just stark a vision, and it's obviously dealing with some subject matter that needs to be handled with care. And it's not a movie for everybody, very understandably. But I don't know. I just wish that there was more of a. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but like I just wish that we had more of an ability to look at a movie like this and have like an earnest conversation about it on a wider scale. And I think that's just for the evangelizing I want to do for the movie. I wish that there was more that this movie could have that I think is going to be limited for just the. I don't know. It's just you can get into a conversation of media literacy, but it's just like I don't know. There's something more I feel like this film could have had if we were more equipped as a society to like talk about a movie like this openly and deal with it in a way that gives it the due I think it's much deserved. But I don't know. It's a challenging time I think for movies like this, and I just don't know what the future is for artists being able to make something this bold and uncompromising and beautiful that's dealing with such dark subject matter. I don't know. It's just it's you don't want to veer into the irresponsible form of this conversation, which is to say that we should be able to do anything and movies can do whatever they want, because obviously we're in a world where thankfully that's not the case anymore. But I don't know. It's just this movie feels like it's getting a very short end of the stick in terms of what it's able to do and the audience it's able to reach. And while obviously it needs to be handled carefully, I just wish that a studio wasn't so. I think maybe I'm assuming here, but it seems like the studio is afraid to really do anything with it.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems like they're worried about like what the like online social media response could be for something like this, where they see the trailer and just kind of assume the worst about it. Mm-hmm. Certainly, I mean, we see a number of films have this cycle of discourse where people have a lot of bad faith reads of films. Certainly, dark comedies fall into that line of thinking. And I think there are, like not every dark comedy is going to be perfect about that. I think, even some ones I think were well acclaimed, like Jojo Rabbit, I feel like I find myself kind of so on, because I think the way that it handles some of its darkly comedic moments and its dramatic moments can be either too flippant or, just maybe not quite earned. And I think this movie is a lot better about earning those moments, because I think Gerard Carmichael is a lot more attuned to sensitivity. Although not that someone like Taika Waititi isn't, but I think it's a little bit more grounded and sincere with this film, and I think it feels more true to life while also having these sort of big, broad moments that work comedically, while also having a lot of smaller, more kind of tucked in comedic moments that feel honest for a relationship that's been as long between these two characters. It just seems like he's really knows what he wanted to do and what he wanted to say with this film, while also at the same time maybe learning some things about himself as an artist and as a person in the process. I mean, that's us assuming, but certainly it would seem that that might have been the case as well. And I just think that's kind of true to Carmichael's style. I feel like his art allows him to kind of have this vulnerability where he grows and he kind of learns things while also making things that feel very confident and very true to his style. And I think this movie feels like a great continuum for that style of his, that they, like we said, continues to evolve as he evolves. And I think if you give it a chance, it's a really short film. I mean, as far as like, I think it's only like 85 minutes or something. It's like pretty quick. You get in, get out, like we said, starts in media res, and it never really slows down. I think the jolt of it is really apparent in the first watch of it, but watching it again, I was really taken by a lot of the dramatic moments, how tight the screenplay is. I think that's something we haven't really highlighted a lot, is that the screenplay, looking up the writers of it. I know they created Remy on Hulu. Ari
Katcher and Ryan Welch.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really tight script, and I think it knows exactly what it wants to do and say. I mean, there are a couple moments tucked in where it feels like it's going too easy for like shock factor that I think don't always work. It can be a little cringy in that respect, and also I think some of the side characters can feel a bit stock. I felt that
Lavelle
way both
Crawford
times.
Very much was playing himself a little bit in it.
Sure. But I just think, I mean, the core relationship between these two, the bromance of it, I think is so lived in, so authentic and so vibrant that I just think it really excels on that. And like we said, like also supporting performances from Henry Winkler and also Tiffany Haddish, who has like basically a cameo, but I think gives one of her better performances in this film. So yeah, I think it's a good film, and I hope people give it a shot.
Same here. Now, we are going to see Gerard Carmichael and Chris Rabbitt working together again because they're both in the next Yorgos Lanthimos movie, Poor Things.
Oh, really?
Which is
I didn't know
supposed to come out this year.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think it's a fall release, but I don't know too much about it beyond that. And yeah, they'll both be in it. I think it's like based on a novel or something. I don't know much about the story.
Oh, it sounds fun. I'm really excited for that. That's probably my top 3 most anticipated for the year.
Always good to see Lanthimos. We haven't seen him since The Favorite. It's been 4 years since his last film.
Yeah, well, at least first feature, yeah.
They're also apparently planning, I talked about this movie not having a huge audience necessarily, but Annapurna and Paramount are going to do an On Account of 3 Paw Patrol spinoff. So that's going to be...
Oh, okay.
It's going to be fun. Yeah, I thought that would be kind of interesting.
We'll see how that goes, I guess.
Yeah, it's I won't give any spoilers away for the plot synopsis apparently, but it's apparently going to be a good time.
I do have to echo that. I'm a big fan of Christopher Abbott, and his career since Girls has just been incredible. He's made a ton of just really good films. Some films that I don't love, but I know Will, you love, like he was in Vox Lux. But films like Possessor, like I just that performance is so incredibly good. And I think his next thing though after Poor Things is he's going to be in Kraven the Hunter, a new superhero movie, one of the next Sony ones. And I think he's going to be playing not the main villain, but like one of the side villains. So we have that to look forward to, right, Will? Another superhero movie, your favorite.
Yeah, who isn't excited for another Sony produced Marvel movie?
And it's because I don't even know if Spider-Man is supposed to be in it. I think it's literally just Kraven the Hunter. Like it's supposed to be like Venom and Morbius, which it's been the summer of so far. But yeah, they're filming that right now. So shout out to that. Okay, let's play the Rotten Tomatoes game. We're on the count of 3. Now, you know the rules. Will and Corey are going to try to guess the Rotten Tomatoes score the day we were, as of today, as we were recording this.
So I might have actually spoiled this for myself, so we'll go with Corey first.
It's been happening a lot lately, hasn't it? Well,
this one was because I was trying to find where it's playing in theaters, and on Fandango they have the little scores on the side, so it wasn't...
Sometimes those aren't accurate. Sure. So we'll start with Corey. Corey, 90 reviews have been counted so far. I imagine one of them's probably yours. I know one of them's mine. I don't know about Will. Will keep things a little closer to his chest. He's not telling.
Will's not in the big
secrets.
Game yet. He's not in the big game yet. Not yet.
He's working on it. All right.
He's working on it. I'll guess 87 for critics.
87 is Corey's guess. We're going to go for the audience too.
I'll say 65.
Okay, Will. All in one go.
Yeah, well, it's probably for the best because I was going to say, when I saw the Fandango thing, they had it listed as 84 for critics and I think 70 for audiences. Is that
Will
still
has
true?
It dead on, and I think he wins, Corey.
Oh, I would abstain because it's like I didn't cheat deliberately. That's why I abstained.
So Corey, you were 3 off, and for the critic score, 84%, 70%, not 65. So the audiences are liking a little bit more than you thought, although it is fewer than 50 ratings. Let's look at the Letterboxd average.
Cinema score.
No, I don't think there's any cinema score. I'll
boy.
double check, but I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention I'm going to have a 10-hour layover in Vegas coming up soon. I wonder if I can squeeze in. Maybe it's not 10 hours. It's a little bit. It's a few hours layover in
10
Vegas.
hours is a long layover. Well, you need
have a hangover experience.
Well, I have a 10-hour layover tomorrow in Los Angeles, but I think I have like a 5-hour layover in Las Vegas coming up. But
holy smokes.
I was thinking about it. I was like, I wonder. Well, I don't know if I can sneak into one of these cinema score showings and kind of tip the hand a little bit. Maybe I can.
No, they have your picture on a dartboard.
Oh yeah, they're like, don't let this scallywag in. Yeah, you've heard the things they said about our fine institution. You would spin his face as soon as he stepped in our doors.
Wow. Okay. On Letterboxd, 5.9 thousand people have logged the film. So we'll start with you this time, Willie Ash. What do you think the average Letterboxd rating is?
Never call me that again. I'm gonna say 3.2.
3.2 is Will's guess. Corey Wood, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna go 3.4.
you're both kind of lowballing it. I'm surprised. 3.7.
Great.
Higher,
Oh, wow.
higher than the 3.5, which is like pretty close to the average for most movies on this site that we cover, at least. So that is on the count of three. I say watch it on the count of three. Head over to the theater if you can find one. And that'll do it for our show this week. Again, we aren't 100% sure what we're going to be talking about next week. Is it going to be Alex Garland's new film, Men? Probably. Although I'm going to tip my hand. I did not like that movie. But I am very curious if Will's going to like it, because it's one of those
I'm
movies
also
where...
curious.
Yeah, because like I didn't like it, but I know people who did. And I know about other people who didn't. And it's very divisive. So that means the conversation's going to be, oh, Corey has that look on his face.
Oh boy.
No, it's not for that. I'll tell you in a second.
Oh boy.
Here we go again.
I was gonna say I've heard people compare it to Mother, which also had kind of a all over the map reaction, which is a movie I really really like, Darren Aronofsky's Mother. Not to be confused.
I like
with,
that movie too.
Bong
and,
Joon-ho's Mother or Albert Brooks's Mother.
I think that is arguably a simplistic comparison. I get why the comparison is being made. I could make a better comparison, but the problem is that I think it gives away a little bit too much, so I'm not going to. But we'll talk about it more probably in a future episode of Cinemaholics.
Yeah, well, I mean, I only say that in the sense that I've heard people say the reactions to are going to be similar to Mother,
maybe
as
so.
far as like people. I don't know if it's similar plot wise, but in terms of the reaction, seems like people are just kind of like, I like it. Well, I don't. I think it's brilliant. I think it's poo poo. You know, people are kind of like going all over the place as far as how they feel about it. And they have very strong opinions, even if they're just like, it's just okay. Like, you know, everyone has like a strong opinion about the film wherever they run the gambit. So I don't know. I mean, that makes me curious certainly to check it out. And I like Alex Garland's previous two directorial efforts, so I want to see it
too. So that should tell you something.
I don't know. I will say the trailer for it did not wow me. I found myself underwhelmed by the trailer. So
yeah, I haven't seen the trailer, but I imagine.
well, there's there's a teaser and a trailer, and the trailer's a little bit better than the teaser, but I'm like, I don't know.
Look, I'm here for Jesse Buckley. I'm here for Rory Kinnear. I went into this movie. I was here for Alex Garland both times. I defended him. You know, to all the Annihilation haters, and I'm just gonna say I was thoroughly disappointed with this one. But
I mean, is it another thing where?
where
Is it another thing where it's like it's a big allegory as a film? Is that
What
where
do
the
you
Mother
think?
comparisons?
I'm
Because I
not
feel like
gonna
with
say
Mother, like the allegory is less interesting than the movie. I think Darren Aronofsky accidentally made with that film, which I think is really
Ding,
good.
ding, ding.
Okay.
But okay. Corey, were you going to say something, or are you going to keep that in the archives because it can never be uttered aloud?
I'll tell you after this is over.
All right. Well, I guess that is a nice place for us to finish it. We'll be back hopefully someday. Who knows? I might not be an unmarried man the next time you hear this voice. But all right. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you, as always, for listening to the show. From the Internet California, I'm John Negroni.
From the Internet Pennsylvania, I'm Lash.
From COVID headquarters in Nashville, I'm Corey Woodruff.
See you next time.